Ark Aberration is just right around the corner, and what are we going to be expecting? So basically, these are my thoughts on what we're going to be expecting on release day of Aberration. I'm also going to be talking about the overall state of Ark from my point of view, but again, these are mostly my personal speculations, so do take them with a grain of salt. Aberration is a big fan favorite, with a lot of Ark players saying this is their favorite map. And is its release going to actually stir up a lot of fans to come back to the game? Like, I do get a lot of comments of people saying, hey, this is my favorite map, I hope they don't ruin it, I hope I can come back and play Ark now because my favorite map is here again. And honestly, I do think we're going to be expecting quite a significant amount of players to come back once Aberration drops. To be honest, I think we're actually going to be expecting an on-time release. We've seen Wildcard put out a statement that they're still scheduled for the release on the 4th, but it's going to be late US time with the US schedule. So we know for people in the EU and other countries, it might be the next day for you, but I feel like them having an open statement like, we'll let you know what times are gonna be when we get closer to release, I think they're planning on doing the same thing they've been doing, so there's gonna be no surprise there if they do pull that card. The game will obviously not work for a good like 30% of players, where they won't be able to access Aberration, or they won't even be able to access that game in its entirety, because after the update it's gonna crash their systems. In regards to the actual map itself, I think it'll be pretty much finished with way fewer bugs than we saw with the center, because at the end of the day, Wildcard and Snail Games kind of taken full responsibility for this when they said, hey, the center was kind of not us, we weren't fully in charge of it, but with this one, it's 100% us, and it's gonna be way better. So I do believe them in a sense where there's gonna be less bugs, because we have seen Scorched Earth, it wasn't as bad as the state we got the center in. So I do believe them in the fact that it's gonna be less bugs, it's gonna be a bit more finished, but I will be very disappointed if after they pulled it back, they didn't fix any issues that they saw that was outstanding, and if we get a cluster of a map like the one we got for the center, then I'm gonna be very, very annoyed. But looking at the map and how it's made and the things in the map, I think it's going to be more or less an 80% copy of Ark Evolved and the same Aberration that was on Ark Evolved. So now, if you've played Aberration before, do you think it's going to be enough changes in it to make it more unique to you, make it feel new to you? Or is it going to be the exact same map with the exact same things from Evolved, just repurposed and given a UE5 update? And all the new additions we're getting, I feel like there's going to be issues. But when it comes to any balances to some of the paid aspects, we may see Wildcard and the devs and Snail Games kind of reluctant to fix these, because at the end of the day, when you're making people pay for certain assets, you don't want to take away the thing that's broken about them. That's kind of the allure to paying for them. So if there's anything that upsets people when all these new additions come out, they're kind of not going to change it. I think if anything happens with the Yi Ling, we're going to see a lot more changes to the Yi Ling before they're going to go around and touch the Cosmo or touch the new Sir Buy Your Mate, because at the end of the day, those are things where they're implementing in a way where you have to pay for them, so why will they nerf it? We've seen this with a Pyroman with a lot of complaints about it. They still haven't done so much to nerf it, and people are just kind of letting it slide at this point. But now, with the release of Aberration, do we see Survival Ascended's player count go up? Is this the map that again saves Ark Survival Ascended? I think we do. I think this is a map that's going to maybe bring around 5,000 to 10,000 players back to Ark and back to Ark Survival Ascended. We know that a lot of players have dipped off over time because they just don't like Ascended, and they're just tired of this whole drip-fed mechanic that Wildcard and Snail Games are doing right now. But I do feel like Aberration is going to bring back a solid minimum of a 5K, I'd say, back to the game. This is going to do a lot for the numbers of Ark, and it's also going to do a lot for sales, because if these players come back and they get roped into buying these DLCs and these packs, we're definitely going to see a bigger sale output for Snail Games, and we'll see a bigger number when we look at those average concurrent players, which is going to be overall good for the game and hopefully fund the game a little bit more. These players are going to come back to just give it a try. They're going to say, Aberration is my favorite map. I love Aberration. So I'm going to come back to Aberration, give it a try, and see if this is going to let me stomach Survival Ascended. And if they play it and all these new things kind of deter them again, and they're like, this is just too much, we're only on Aberration, and look at all these things they've added, it's just ruined everything for me, and this doesn't feel like the same map anymore, this doesn't feel like Ark anymore, I feel like some of those players are going to fall off again, because this is going to be a really, really, really tense time for Ark, because people are going to be trying to come back to see if it's still the game they loved, if this is still their favorite map, and any little thing can break that for players. And if it does, all these players are gonna go away again. And that's kind of where we hit a problem. Aberration was a very pure map with its own unique set of problems that players ended up liking because they had to battle them and survive. And then again, here's another problem. Where there's a chance for monetization and when there's a problem, we keep seeing this new strategy from Snail Games. They either make a problem or see a current problem that no one ever asked to be fixed, and then they sell you the solution. Example, the cryopods, with all the excuses for why they added the new cryopod system, just to then sell us the pyromane, which actually addresses the major issue a lot of players had with the cryopods. Is a little bit scabby. You took away the cryopods and you made all these excuses and said, hey, we made this new system to make it better and it's gonna help PvP, Then you sell us something. You don't give it to us, you sell us something that fixes the problem you created. That was just very weird. It just felt very scammy in my opinion. My question is, why couldn't they just use the no build radius and attach it to the already implemented cryopod system? That way they wouldn't have had to change much of the cryopod system. Just if you're near another player's base, you can't unpod your dino. That would have made it a little bit easier and people can still go around dropping their dinos wherever they need to. Now you can go on official maps and everyone has second base or a third base or a fourth base around all the resource points or all the cave entrances so they can put down cryopods. And now it's like, if you're not one of the first people to be there, you're gonna have to transport your dinos all the way there just to unpod them. That was a problem we never had before. People didn't have to build other bases just to access caves or resource points. They could just fly over, drop their stuff. Now we have a lot more spam because people are trying to control areas so they can actually just unpod their dinos. So yes, you solved an issue that you created, but you made another issue. On Aberration, one of the biggest issues early game is traversing the map. The map is big and it's kind of hard to traverse the map. A lot of people saying it's super hard. But then on the other side, we see it as an issue that's trained players to be better till they get to the point where they had their rock drakes and other dinos to help them combat this issue. So again, there's a problem, people persevere, they get better at the game, and now they enjoy the game a little bit more because they had to work hard to progress and get to these points where they weren't dying anymore or where it was faster to go across the map. Now we see Snail Games trying to implement these blimps you can get. So pay for this pack, you get this blimp. It helps you fly across the map. It eliminates that problem of you having to take so long to get across the map when you first start. And just again, if there is a problem, they will find a way to sell you the solution. We've also seen this as well on Scorched Earth. Scorched is one of the most unforgiving maps, so basically death is always like a second away, so you have to be very careful at all times because you might die, your dino might die. But again, they added a creature that eliminates some of those issues, the Oasisaur. Yes, you've died, your dino died, don't worry. You can get it right back in 24 hours with your Oasisaur. Yes, it's a little bit balanced. That was one of the things, again, for me, the Oasisaur was a thing of, I like being able to say, I made a decision to go out and try this risky thing. If my dinos die, I'm okay with that. You know, it's a risk I was willing to take. That's why I was out there in the first place. But giving people the option to bring it back was a little bit broken. They've made it in a way where it's balanced, so we can't really complain about it. But again, it did take away some of that soul out of Ark by adding new souls to Ark. So it's kind of like a win-lose situation. And again, the Oasisaur didn't really affect the progression of the game because you would not want to revive a dino that is weak anyway. So the progression means you still have to get to the point where your dino is super strong before you'd want to actually resurrect it. So again, the Oasisaur didn't really break progression. Now, depending on when you can actually tame all the new additions, like the Cosmo for instance, it can actually help players get off the ground quickly. So it helps you set up your base somewhere safer off the ground, and that goes across PvE and PvP. Does it break progression? No, not really. Yes, it helps you get to safer places, but again, you still have to go and tame these guys. And because they don't have so much combat abilities, just utilities and support skills, it's not going to terribly break the game. So the Cosmo being added, in my opinion, is a good addition. It's something that's light, it's palatable, and it's not overly OP that's going to ruin everything. On PvP, it should, and I'll say it should, just act as a slow down mechanism and not a bowler that actually stops players in their tracks. Because for wild dinos, if you can slow a wild dino down for just that 4 or 5 seconds, it can be the crucial seconds you need to get out of danger and survive that interaction. But now, if you were able to stop players and dinos completely in their tracks, that becomes game breaking, because now you can stop them in their tracks, grapple to somewhere safe, and shoot down on them, and now you're raining down hellfire and killing someone because they don't have something that you bought. And one thing I'm not super keen on when it comes to the Cosmo is the ability to pick things up. So its web can actually pick things up. Now my question is, will this act as a whip to other players where you can steal weapons in their hands? Because if we look at it like that, and if that is a thing, that's going to be an issue. So hopefully they don't go that far and it's just items that are dropped on the floor. So maybe if you're on PvP and someone's trying to popcorn all the goods away, you can whip it up if you can get in there fast enough. If that's the case, then that's okay. But if you're able to take things out of players' hands, that's a little bit too much. So again, not everything that they're adding is bad at all. So don't get it twisted. A lot of people think I'm just hating on Wildcard and then hating on Snail Games. I'm not. This is my favorite game. Why would I want it to fail? And all these things I'm saying where not everything is bad, it goes all the way to the Yi Ling as well. I think the Yi Ling addresses the climbing issues, being able to again get off the ground, and it gives you something that kind of bridges the gap between the levels where you don't have a Rock Drake or you're getting ready to get to your Rock Drake. It kind of bridges that gap there, making things a little bit easier for players. So does it take steam away from the Rock Drake? Yes, 100% it does. I can't lie about that. But it doesn't take enough steam where it makes the Rock Drake not feasible or stupid to go try and get. You're still gonna need the Rock Drake. I don't think it's gonna be as much of a powerhouse as the Rock Drake is on Aberration, so you're still going to have to get yourself a Drake. It is going to sting just a little bit on the Rock Drake and the allure and the mythicalness of getting your first Rock Drake. But now, let's talk about this new automated bestie, Sir Fiver Mate or Sir Buyer Mate. I think this becomes an issue beyond Aberration. It becomes an issue beyond just even in-game, because when I started playing Ark late 2016, one of the first things that got me addicted to the game was farming and keeping resources high. Like, I personally came from a world of MMORPGs. Farming was a grind to get that new sweet set of armor or get items from the shop or trade to people so they can help you craft things because you have an item that they don't have. Now you're gonna sell it to them just so they can help you craft things. That really drew me into Ark because I truly enjoyed it and I find farming very fun. And if you think about it, if you have friends who play the game, there's always going to be several of them who are going to be just farmers, who just love farming, making their crop farms and just farming metal, farming rock, and farming the materials you guys need to upkeep your base. Having these guys available to us, depending on how many we can get, how frequently we can use them, it's going to take some of that soul, some of that love for these activities out of Ark. And then you have to think about it. A lot of players use farming as a way to relax, switch up their tasks, or trade for gear that they can't obtain themselves. Maybe you're scared and you can't do a cave because you're just not experienced enough, but you need an artifact. Now you can say, okay, can I get this artifact for 5,000 ingots? And a player who's more experienced, who does this like every day, is like, sure, 5,000 ingots? That's like light work for me. Sure, give me the 5,000 ingots. But now if there's no incentive to get 5,000 ingots, because, hey, I have Sir Fivermate who's actually just going to get 5,000 ingots in the next 2 hours or the next 3 hours. Don't need your 5,000, mate. Deal with it. That kind of breeds some sort of disconnect between people and the way trading is going to work in the game. Again, this is just speculation. We don't know exactly how it's going to work or how well it's going to be able to gather resources. But in my opinion, I feel like this robot just kind of breaks the balance we have in Ark. And again, it might only be able to harvest at 20% of what a player can, and that 20% is still quite a lot. Because you think about it, you're like, 20%, that's not that bad, right? But is 20% enough for us to lose some soul in Ark? I don't think so. Then now if we think about the bigger picture, the issues with the speed of farming in Ark has all been solved a long time ago in Ark Survival Evolved. All these problems that Wildcard and Snail Games are trying to say, we've solved it, here's something for you to buy that's going to solve your issues. It's all been solved already. So now, why do we need another solution that you have to pay for when the solution is kind of just all about waiting at this point? So this is them using FOMO to trick people into buying something that they don't actually need. And again, it's a scabby tactics. And look, if this robot was added to Ark Survival Evolved, it would change absolutely nothing. Anyone who said anything about this robot in Evolved, you're actually stupid, because it would have changed absolutely nothing at all. We've had Striders and tech suits on Genesis, even magma swords that made farming nearly obsolete. But again, you can still enjoy the activity of doing the farming with a dino. So all this does is take away the action of doing so. This is just a ploy to force people to buy Bob's Tall Tales, buy the pack on this drip-fed version of the game, and they're drip-feeding us things to force our hands to buy things that we don't actually need. Because think about it this way, when I say pay to win, a lot of players are like, you're so stupid, pay to win, if I get this thing on this paid pack, I don't just win the game, do I? No, I don't. You're getting a little bit twisted. Let me give you an example. Imagine two players, identical, evenly matched across the board on PvP. They have 2 hours of farming before they can go raid each other. One has this robot and the other doesn't. And after 1.5 hours out of the 2 hours, with the help of the robot, one of the guys finishes farming and runs off to raid the other guy who doesn't have the robot. So he's still out farming. So when he comes back to his base is raided. So this is a small example of the scale of pay to win. No, it doesn't mean you don't have to do work. It means you have to do less work while everyone else has to do more work just to keep up. Are you getting my point now? And we can even say this with the Pyromane and let's say PvE. Yes, you have to go and tame the Pyromane, but now if a player with no Pyromane has to raise 5 lines of mutated dinos just to be able to do a cave because nothing fits in the entrance, but now you can go and tame your first Pyromane you see over level 100 and go right into that cave and come out alive with your artifact. But they have to spend 2-3 weeks taming and raising dinos just to be able to do this cave. Isn't that pay to win? You were able to do it on your first try with a dino you just tamed while they have to go through raising multiple lines to get strong enough to do the same thing you just did. Again, it's kind of pay to win. So when I say pay to win, I don't mean, oh, you buy this thing and you won the game. It doesn't work like that. Pay to win has a way more in-depth meaning. So those are just simple ways these things are pay to win. But in the long run, when we get a full game with all the expansion maps on full release, these things we're buying will almost be meaningless. So maybe the people not investing or not playing until specific maps and specific things are released, maybe they're the smart ones and we're all just kind of dumb because we are still in here and we are still spending money on things that will kind of mean nothing when the full game is released. And in my opinion, I think this is why Snail Games and Wildcard are right now trying to push all these paid DLCs so early on before the game is even near halfway complete. They're drip feeding it because as soon as the full game is released, there will be no allure to buying these things because there are going to be other resolutions already baked into the game that we are all expecting. They're just going to come out and then their whole master plan of forcing you to buy things fails. So they have to get everything in so early and so fast. And that is my main problem. Because they're adding these things so early and so fast, it's ruining the game. We can't go from dying on the beach to Delos and things, having to work so hard to get to the boss fight, do the boss fights, unlock your tech, build your tech, and now try to keep your tech up and running by doing the boss fights over and over again, to not having an automated robot because it's steampunk that helps you do things. It just doesn't make sense. If we were on a released map like Genesis and then they rolled this out, would it make sense? Yes, because we have so much tech now. But at this point of the game, it just doesn't feel natural. So in my opinion, they could have waited to have a finished game before blowing up ASA, but they didn't do that, and that was very deliberate. Ark used to boast 50,000 to 80,000 players every 24 hours, and now we've dipped so far below, and people still think that anyone who is mad at everything that's going on are crazy and stupid. But again, if we've lost over 60,000 players, are the people who are still here and mad the stupid ones, or are we the diehard fans that even with all the bull that's going on are still here and still trying to fight to keep this game at a high standard? Are we stupid, or are you just choosing to deliberately be blind? No Ark player wants Ark to fail. I find that all we want is just to have a great game, but sitting by and letting the game go further down this dark path actually kills the game. Imagine after years of Scorched Earth being out and released, years of having the full game out, we maybe start losing a few players on Ark Survival Evolved. And then Wildcard and Snail Games go, hey, we have a new pack we're releasing. It's called Bob's Tall Tales. We're going to add the Oasis Sword to Scorched Earth. We're going to add this new robot to Aberration and many more things to come. Don't you think a lot of players would come back to Ark Survival Evolved to check these new things out? Did we need a whole new game to implement these new things? No, these things could have literally helped revitalize an already living game in Ark Survival Evolved. It could have literally revitalize the whole game with these new additions. All the new Cerato and the Deinosuchus and the Zinfactinus, all of these things could revitalize a living game that was boasting such large numbers. Because think about it, till this day, whenever a new mod is released on Ark Survival Evolved, people are going crazy. We see the numbers shoot right up. So why did they not think that keeping Ark Survival Evolved alive and adding these things onto Evolved would have made the game bigger than it ever was? And if they did that, they would have been able to raise the prices of these things higher and still seen more sales than they saw so far on Ark Survival Ascended. Is this just stupid business plans, or is there something behind this that we just don't see? Because just think about it. Imagine they added the Pyromane when we have all the maps released. That would have been crazy. It would have been so nice to have these things fighting Magmasaurs and just doing crazy things. But no, we needed a new game for that, right? And also the whole UE5 excuse. We didn't need a UE5 version to fix Ark. A new TLC with a few little things added to it would have done pretty much the same thing. We've seen them do it before. We didn't need a whole new game on a whole new engine that just, again, copy and pasted the old game to make it better. It didn't make it better. It's still the same game, just worse at this point. And as well with Cursed Forge, that could have also been implemented on ASA. It would have just taken a little bit more work, but in return, the prices of everything could have been raised higher, as it's now not just an addition to a half-baked early access game, it's going to be additions to a fully released game that has been released for years and boasting very good numbers. So the charts and the reason for you to buy this is way, way higher because you have a full game to experience all these things on. Because think about it, the prices of the things like Genesis and everything were kind of steep. It was kind of like paying the same for a brand new game, but we didn't see as much complaints about that as we were seeing with things that are like $5. There are things that are like $5 and a lot of people are mad about that. So what's the difference here? Simply put, people are annoyed that you made a whole new game, you gave us 1/10 of the content, and you're making us buy things already. Things that would be obsolete and not needed by the time the full game releases. That could be part of the issue. 80 to 100,000 players is a bigger pool of potential sales than 14,000. I am sorry, we have like 14 to 20,000 right now. If you had 80,000 to 100,000 on Ark Survival Evolved, that's a bigger pool to sell to. So if you added all these things to Evolve, so much more money could have been made. Come on, think about the revenue. Most of the people who left Ark are official players, and they didn't leave Ark, they just stayed on Evolved. And a lot of them are paying upwards of $40 a month to host private Nitrado servers on Evolved just to play, or they moved to single player, which by the way is still broken on both games. So imagine all that money that could have been used to buy these new additions on Evolved. But again, I digress. Will we all be on the same boat when Ark 2 hits around 2,000 average players every 24 hours? Is that when everyone's gonna wake up and say, okay, it's going a little bit too far now? Or do we put a stop to it now until they do better? This new direction that we're seeing Snail Games take Ark isn't sustainable. But hey, we can wait for Ark 2, right? That's gonna fix everything. And once that game comes out, they're going to retcon Ark Ascended and then we're back to square one again. Hopefully Aberration does bring back some players who will stay. And I mean that genuinely. I hope it brings back players that will stay, because when we see a boost of players, maybe they'll take the game a little bit more seriously, because over the last year, they've kind of been letting us down a lot. And I'm kind of fed up of it, but this is my favorite game. I don't want it to fail. And I know a lot of you look at me as a villain who's always complaining. But if you think about it, I do giveaways, I do things where I'm not in support of something, but I'll do a giveaway where someone who might be in support of it will win, and then they'll spend their money on it. So yes, I'm not directly buying it myself, but I'm giving money to you guys to go buy it so we can still support the company, you know? So I might look like a villain, but me speaking about the game, speaking about these problems and bringing awareness to these things, it's still making the game a topic, right? I'm still kind of putting the game out there. I'm still giving the game and its topic more views. So regardless of what I say, regardless of what you may think about me, I want this game to succeed. Like, I'm sick right now and I'm still making this video because I want this game to succeed. And I also want the views as well. Yeah, it is what it is. We gotta be real about it. But I want this game to succeed. I've played this game so much. This is the game I've played the most in my whole life. And I'm 24 right now. So it's crazy that people think I want Ark to fail or I'm not willing to spend money on Ark. I've spent over like $600 on this game. One game. So yeah, Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think about everything I just said. Don't forget, if you're new here, if you like my opinions, you like these videos, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Watch some Ark content, watch more of my content, watch more creators' content, but we've got to be real and realistic about this game and where it's heading to, because the more we keep lying to them, the more they're going to keep breaking the game, and once they've ran it into the ground, they're going to throw Ark 2 at us, and it's not going to change anything. So yeah, I hope I haven't been rambling too much. I am a little bit sick. Well, not a little bit, I'm really sick. So my brain just isn't working as much, so I have to write a lot of things down. I wish I could say more, but my thoughts are just all muddled right now. But yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one.